Hello Year 12. So today what we're going to be doing is creating a land use map for Pimpama River. Now, I am going to be using scribble maps for my land use map, as well as you should be doing the same thing. Now, what you're going to do is type in scribble maps. You just click create a map now. You don't need to create an account or anything like that. And it should take you to the website like this. Now, what you're going to do first is just cross out of this little pop-up here. Click these two arrows here to push that to the side, and then we'll have all these world maps here. Now, first thing we're going to need to do is actually find the Pimpama River. So if we zoom in towards the east coast of Australia around Gold Coast, we come up here, and it is near South Stradbroke. It's around here somewhere, and here it is. So this is the Pimpama River here. Now, this is actually the mouth of the river. And what we'll notice eventually is that the river goes all the way inland and is actually quite long. Now, if we're going to make a land use map and be mapping out all the different industries that run around the Pimpama River, such as development, residential, farming, quarries, etc. First thing we're going to need to actually do is actually map the river itself. Otherwise, in our satellite imagery, as we could already see, the river is quite hard to see. So the first thing we're going to do is we click on this icon up here called the draw tool. When we click on that one, we should be able to change the thickness of our line. Now, with the thickness of our line, I'm just going to go with 18, and I want the color blue. Looks like it's already on a blue. And essentially what I'm going to do is start coloring in the actual river. Now this is probably going to take about 15 minutes to do because the river is quite long. So what I do is I actually just follow the Pimpama River like so. Now eventually I'm going to get to a point where I can't draw anymore. What I need to do is go to this little hand icon here. This is the icon that lets me move around. So if I click on that one, I can then grab and actually move. Now obviously I can zoom out a little bit as well to help me. So I'll zoom out a bit, go back to my pencil, and then I'll keep following along. So the river comes along here, and it comes down, and then it keeps going. And I'll show you now that if I keep following it, you can see it just keeps going and going and going, and then it gets smaller. Now, eventually you'll have it all outlined, the Pimpama River. After you do that, so I'm just going to pretend I have it all outlined, what you're going to start using is this tool here called the polygon tool. Anytime you find a certain land use around the Pimpama River you would like to map, so maybe this one here, if I zoom in, we can see that it's like uh, a area that is going to be residential, but currently it's in development. So if it's in development, we're going to be seeing a lot of building tools and maybe some runoff from construction. Maybe we might see some impacts on our riparian level. Just looking at it now from the satellite, it does look like their riparian level is pretty poor. We can see it goes grass straight to the water there. So it means that there's not much holding those riverbanks back if we were to get some flooding potentially. So what I would like to do here is actually use my polygon tool. So I click on that one. Here is where I can change the colors. So the pencil is going to change the outline of the polygon, the type of color it is. And this one here is going to change the actual fill of it. So I want to make all of my development areas the same color. So maybe I might just go for a red. So if I click that, I can make it red. With the line thickness, I might want to make that a bit smaller now. So let's go for 3. And if I click on my polygon, now I can actually make it. So with the polygon tool, essentially how it works is you just click to do the outline. Now, the more clicks you do, individual clicks, the neater it's going to be and the more accurate. That is what I would like you to do. You have until week 9 to actually hand this assessment in. So we shouldn't be rushing any of maps we create because we don't want to um, miss any marks or opportunities to get marks by rushing through it. So we have heaps of time. So basically, I just trace around this. Mine's going to be a bit more messy than your one. So just keep tracing around it. And there we go. Now, once I'm finished, I can either double click and it will finish my polygon, or I can press X. It's got a double click. There we go. There's my polygon showing some development areas. Now, I may also want to add a marker to this to make it even more noticeable that it is a development area. If I want to do that, all I need to do is click Create Legend. I click Marker. I can change the marker to whatever I like. I can also change the size. 75% on this site is actually very big. So 25% or maybe 30% is probably a lot better. For this, I'm going to search for construction. And we'll see what type of icons come up. There's one here with like a crane. So maybe I'll just pick that one. I click add. Oh, first I need to actually make a title. So this title here is what's going to show up in the legend. So we want it to be accurate. So I'm going to write development. So if I do that, we can see in our legend we got a thing there. It's called development. Cross out of this, I click on my legend, and now I can place this icon. Now here I can rotate it, I can make it bigger. It does look quite small now, but when I zoom out of the map, it's going to look a lot bigger than it is currently. So I'll just keep it that size for now. Now it wants me to make a title. This part doesn't really matter that much because it's not really going to show up on our map anyway when we export it. So I'm just going to say development again and click save. Cool. So as you can see, when I zoom out, it makes it a bit bigger. Now, I might make it now another color. So let's say I'll go green, and I might make green now my color for my farms. So obviously farms are going to be important to map on this, as we can get fertilizer runoff that can impact a lot of different data collections that we're actually taking. So if I grab that one, grab my polygon, I can then continue on and then trace around that as well. All right. So I've done that quite poorly, but just showing you that you can use different color for farms. There I can then click back onto my legend. From there I can click this little plus symbol and, oh sorry, not the plus symbol, let's just go back. I can click on this little pencil here. Then I can make another marker, change marker. For the farms, so just type in farm, something should come up. What do we got? Looks like a little orange tractor. I'll click on that one. Make a title. Title's farm. Click add. Now I can see that in my legend I now have another icon I can add. So now I have a farm icon. Type in farm, save. So there's some things that we could map out. So we have some development areas, we have some farms. I'll just show you some other examples you can map. So if I keep following this river, Um, eventually it's going to follow along here. And we can see that we have some, what we could classify as like urbanization, some actual housing. So that's a different type of land use. We also have the Pacific Motorway, which goes over Pimpama River as well. So we can map that out. If I wanted to map the Pacific Motorway, or let's say any main roads that go over Pimpama River, I can click on my draw tool again, and here I can click road snap. So the pencil actually snaps to the road. So let's say if I make it red, click my road snap, I can actually follow the road. Now see here, it's got a bit zigzaggy like that. I can click my delete tool and erase it and then go again. Also, that was quite thin for a line, so we can make it thicker here as well. But that's another thing you can do. If we keep following the river, we can see there's more development going on, so more development we can map. And eventually, if we keep following it, we can get to a quarry. Now, we will definitely be around this area when we collect some of our data. So we can map the Pimpama River all the way up to around about here. So we can see that that can be quite a long map. Now, I have already created a map, and I'm going to show you now. This is something I've created. It took me about probably maybe like 40 to 50 minutes, so it did take quite a while. This is actually incomplete. You can see there's still areas where I haven't really mapped what the land use is. A lot of the times, like the land use is nothing, like it's just a forest. But that's something I could still map out anyway. But essentially, what I've mapped out here, I got my farms, I have my development areas, and I have my quarry. I've mapped the river. In my red lines, I've mapped some main roads. This little one here in the red was I think a sewage treatment plant, if I remember correctly. And you can see on my legend, I've placed all those items. Now, once we are happy with our map, by the way, your map should look a lot better than this. Once we are happy with our map, we can zoom out to how we like. So let's say I want to zoom out to, let's say here. I can click menu and I can click save map. Now I've already entered all the descriptions and stuff for it, but for you it's going to be all blank. What you're going to need to do is type in a map ID, so what you want to name your map. Give it a title, a description, and a password. And when you click save, it means that if you remember that map ID and password, which you should write down, you can access that map again later on, which is something you're going to do later on because you're going to have to place some of the sites we collected data, and maybe you can place some more overlays as well to make it more sophisticated later on. But essentially, when I save map, I can then export it, which is something we're going to have to do because we need to add bolts. So if I go menu, I can click save image or PDF. When I click save image or PDF, you can see that it's shown me this scope of the map, which is quite poor. It's too zoomed in. So to fix that, I just have to keep going out, zooming out, then going back to save image or PDF. You can see it's still too zoomed in. So I basically have to keep repeating that until I get it to the point where I'm happy with. So let's go back, save image or PDF. So now it's off to the side, and I keep doing that. Now, if you find that these icons are too big, you can click on them and edit them back down to a size that you like. But essentially, this is just a bit of trial and error where you just keep changing it to get it how you like. So you can just keep clicking save image of PDF. So now it's off to the side. We can try and get that in the middle. So it's getting closer, but still not quite. We could also change this as well to change the size. So, if we want a different width and height for this image, we can do that also. Now, once you have saved it, what you're going to need to do is pop it into something like a Microsoft Word to add your bolts. This is what mine looks like. So I have my map where I exported. It came with the legend. I just had to write legend above it. It did not come with a scale. I just had to crop a scale out of the actual image. So if I go back, you can see that down in the bottom corner here. It's quite hard to see there is a scale. Just make sure you're on the correct scope and then you can crop that out with it. So I got that. I got my orientation. I do have a border around this. I have my title and I have my source. So I have all these bolts, and essentially all I had to do is just pop it into Word and then just add some text boxes and then just get rid of the text box after I've actually typed it in. Typed in legend or typed in my title or the N above my orientation. Now, other things that you can map on this later on, let's say I have my land use map, other things I can map is maybe I can grab an icon for the 4 places we'll collect data along the river. That would be quite important. Because let's say we're only collecting data in the middle here, we can kind of get an idea of what our water quality is going to be like or what type of statistics we're going to grab based on the actual areas around the river. We can see we got some urbanization and we got some farming. So we're likely going to have maybe some farm runoff. Maybe near urbanization we might have a little bit of pollution potentially, which might be a little bit different. Let's say if we were near the quarry where we got quarry runoff. So that's all important. Another thing that we could potentially add is maybe in the corner here, maybe I could add a map in New South Wales with maybe a little icon showing where this area is actually located. So kind of like an inset map, but like an opposite of it. So where we're showing the smaller area enlarged and the bigger area small. Other things that we could add is maybe even a table of some data with maybe an arrow pointing to where we found that data. So stuff like that, and that can all make it more sophisticated than what it already is. So essentially, this is what we're trying to go for. This is something that we can create before we actually go to Pimpama. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me, email me, or you can find me in Generate Staff Room as well, and I can help you out. All right, see yous.